Well, good morning. Spring officially arrived last week, but it might be a little early to bring out the shorts and flip-flops. We've at least had a few days to get us thinking about nicer days ahead. Our conversation this morning is about a unique nonprofit organization that's been carrying out its mission for over a half century in Upper Michigan. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, since October of 1965, the mission of Goodwill Industries of northern Wisconsin and Upper Michigan has been to enhance the dignity and life of individuals and families and communities by eliminating barriers to opportunity and helping people in need reach their fullest potential through the power of work. We'll find out more about how that mission is working as we talk this morning with Jim Borowski, the organization's president and CEO. Jim, welcome to the Ryan Report.
Thank you.
Nice to have you
Nice
with
meeting.
us. Where are you from originally, Jim?
Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, born and raised.
And you went to school at Augustana College.
Little Augustana in Rock Island, Illinois.
Okay.
West side of state of Illinois.
What were your plans when you went to Augustana?
The reality being known to play football for the Packers.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting story. Kenny Anderson played at Augustana, and he recruited us from high school. So,
Okay.
so that was my goal.
So that dream didn't come true?
Well, obviously not. Yeah.
Other than that, how's your life going now?
It's fantastic.
Okay.
I'm in a great place right now.
Okay. You were a senior executive with a number of companies, including Square D, which manufactures electrical equipment, and
Yep.
Life Fitness, which manufactures and distributes exercise equipment. And
Correct.
you actually worked around the world somewhat, didn't you?
Yeah, around the world. Square D is now Group Schneider, electrical equipment manufacturer. I was an auditor and did business startups. Plant manager, financial person, started in finance and auditing, and then worked my way to a plant manager, and then jumped over to a small company called Life Fitness. They manufacture fitness equipment, and now they were, well, a few years ago, purchased by Brunswick.
Okay.
So,
And that actually took you around the world somewhat, didn't it?
yeah, well, both jobs actually. I was an auditor. I'd go to open up plants in Germany and England, and then Life Fitness was exciting because we started things similar to CarMax. That was my business,
Okay.
where we traded in anyone's fitness equipment and remanufactured it. We had a plant outside of Budapest,
Oh.
Atlanta, LA, so I was in Europe quite a bit.
Okay. Whatever brought you to this assignment as the CEO for Goodwill in this region?
Long story.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about, things changed. I had a call right out of the blue, an associate of mine that was offered this position, and I was actually working in Vancouver and in Toronto and doing my business. And he said, I think you're the perfect person. Your personality, your desire, your dream, it's in northern Wisconsin. That's
Okay.
fantastic. Closer to the Packers.
Packers,
Yeah, here we are. And after about 5 or 6 interviews, I was here. It was the right thing.
Okay. What did you see that made you think it was the right thing?
Well, beautiful country, that was
Okay.
one. But the reality was to take my business experience and create a more sustainable business for Goodwill. This Goodwill had 3 main sources: the donated goods, the retail, our industrial services, and then we'll call our training. And they had a substantial industrial services business, and I thought I could enhance that.
Now, managing a nonprofit is not necessarily without its challenges, and I know this organization did go through a bankruptcy. What was that about?
Well, like any business, we like to call ourselves a social enterprise, emphasize enterprise. We have to maintain all of the normal standards and balance sheet and cash flow. And this Goodwill got overextended. They opened up 3 new stores, Escanaba, Marinette, and the Sioux, and it just pulled cash out of the business without really managing the balance sheet. So there's a great mission in the social work side and the training, but the reality is you have to be a business. So when I walked into it, we had cash and extended it into debt.
Now, a couple of things to emphasize. First of all, you are a nonprofit.
Yes, 501c.
The money you generate goes back into the organization?
Exactly, 100%.
If you do make a profit, say, if your revenue exceeds expenses, that money is used for what purpose then?
Rainy days, fixing the roof, reinvesting. I mean, we have all the issues of a company. We have forklifts, we have trucks that have to be repaired. We have people's benefits. We were talking earlier, a roof collapsed in Calumet. So you have to have cash for those rainy days. We guesstimate through our financials about 92 cents on every dollar stays within the company.
Okay.
The rest is administrative costs, the human resources, legal, leases, taxes, and those kind of things.
And I think it's important for people to understand, and you've said it, but you have to operate like a business. I mean, you have to be business-like to make this process work, don't you?
100%. You know, we're bound by all the laws. We're not for profit, and really under that definition, we're not subject to federal income tax. That's probably the benefit of that. But we're still responsible to OSHA, MIOSHA, healthcare. One of our big missions to push was to take care of our employees by adding a 403B, and there's a match, and healthcare, which is difficult in a smaller company. So we've added those type of benefits to our programs to help our staff also.
Okay. And you do have to collect sales taxes, and you pay some property tax, I assume?
We do. We collect sales tax in Michigan and Wisconsin. We operate on two sides. We do pay property tax through our vendors, our landlords. Last year we owned Marquette and Houghton, and we sold those with lease back so we can secure our future.
Well, we should talk a little bit about the fact that there is a national, or actually global, Goodwill, and you're affiliated with that, but you are strictly a separate organization.
Yeah, that's a great question. Goodwill International, we do pay them a fee, and the best way I could describe it is a franchise fee. We pay a monthly fee based on our revenue streams, but that goes to protect our territories and our trademark, our Smiling G as we call it.
And I know you have only one store in Wisconsin, but I think you have a fairly large area down there you serve.
We have all 7 counties that border on the UP.
Okay.
We can go and expand, but there's, you know, it's difficult. We're a rural area, so we can only go where populations can support us.
Right.
So Marinette is a powerful location for us with the industrial base. In our industrial services, we work with Marinette Marine, we work with Tyco, Ansell, Fortune 500 companies, and Caterpillar.
Okay. We'll circle back to that in just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
I'll get back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this 2-minute break. Our guest this morning is Jim Borowski. Jim is the CEO of Goodwill of Northern Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. You know, before we leave talking about the national organization, that's of course where it all began. And I understand it was a Methodist minister that got it all started.
Yeah, outside of Boston.
Okay.
I was supporting homeless folks, and it was never really a formalized organization, and obviously the name was just doing good things, Goodwill.
I understand he would collect stuff from the nicer side of Boston and bring it over to the other side and get those people to fix it up and
Right.
and sometimes keep it and sometimes sell it.
Absolutely.
And really they're spreading throughout the world now, aren't they?
They're experimenting. Some places in Europe and South America. There are 5 locations in Canada already. That's been established for a while. And you know, to explain the organization better is that we're independent. I think that's
Right.
a critical point.
Right.
There's 155 of us in the United States and 5 in Canada. And Goodwill International put on seminars and webinars and allow to exchange ideas. Very good with those kind of things and learning opportunities 3 or 4 times a year. But they have no operational control of our Goodwill. We have 7 board members in the area, and they have complete exclusive rights over how we operate. And I think that's a fine point.
Right.
We face a lot of criticism sometimes on Facebook over, you know, paid and things like that, but that's not me.
And I assume you have to stay within a certain framework, but you can pretty much do what you need to do in your area to make it work.
Yeah, it's my job to set the strategic plan and the direction and present ideas to the Goodwill board.
Now, I think most people know Goodwill for either a place they can drop off their stuff if they don't want it anymore, or they can go and buy some stuff.
Right.
And it's kind of fascinating to think about that, because that's really what makes the whole system work, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, it's a great model. You can give of your things instead of cash. We do what we term in my background a value add from the manufacturing side. We look for good things and we try to eliminate bad, maybe a cigarette hole or things like that. And we have a process called the river, and that moves the product through the back of the store to the front. So most of our business is in the back of the store that you don't see, and most of the jobs are there. So we have a unique process and an education system that we go through.
And let's just talk for a minute about, there are some things you want and some things you don't want, right?
Yes, and we get it all.
Yeah. And if you get a lot of stuff you don't want, that probably costs you a lot of money.
It costs well over $100,000 through disposing of.
Right.
And so we have to pay our bill on that too. Sometimes we get tires old tires, and we get things, and that's part of our process. But we don't want to turn that down from the community. We ask, we're willing to take anything.
Okay. But ideally, there are things that can be resold in your store.
Yes, a lot of sold.
And the whole purpose of this is to create jobs for other people, isn't it?
Yes, all jobs. And so what the process is to add value, look for quality things, and keep it at a value on the buy side. One of our missions is to create, besides jobs, we'd like to get givers to become buyers. So the people that donate can also buy in the front, and there's lots of values. We have clothes that still have tags on them, designer names, and I'll tell you, the UP is very generous. They give us lots. Last year we received over 150,000 donations, and we count a donation one customer. It's not how many bags or how many boxes, it's one donation. So that's a really nice, generous community for us.
And you do give those who drop off some things the opportunity to get a receipt if they need it?
For tax deductibility. We don't advise on value, but that's to the individual with their accountant.
And when you talk about you're talking about 6 stores in the UP?
We had 6. We just closed Iron Mountain last week, but Iron Mountain is going to add a warehousing function. So we also do our community service with people with disabilities there. So we sort, we keep our tags, all our supplies are in Iron Mountain. It's actually central to the whole UP for us.
Okay. And when we talk about hiring people, you're not hiring necessarily people who are just on the job market, are you?
No. One of the things we're proud of in our mission is to expand what we would consider who we hire and how we hire. In addition to the benefits we've added, we try to keep our wages competitive, which we are. We look at commensurate wages in the area, but we also have flexibility. Doesn't have to be a 40-hour week, depending on transportation and the individual needs. So we give a lot of flexibility with people to bring them in. One of our beliefs is that could be a transition employer to bring people on so they can find other work other places, which is one of our training programs that we do. So it's not just people with disabilities, but it's also people that need work.
Talk about training. How do you run these programs?
Well, in our work centers in Marinette, in Kearney, and in Calumet, plus our stores, we work with community mental health agencies, and they will give us referrals for people that need some job development skills. We do 3 core programs, I would say. One is skill building, how to develop your skills and how to work on a job, and that can go from hygiene to greeting, and then specific skills in our stores, how to sort, how to tag, how to run the cash registers. So we get them ready to get jobs, and then in some cases we hire. Our goal is to hire, but we also use other employers. And in Marinette, Menominee area, we work with the independent school districts, and we have programs through MRS that brings individuals to us for training. Okay. But my belief in this whole process is to create a sustainable model. As we talked earlier, the financials can eat you alive, and to create those models that we sustain ourselves. We don't get federal money except for training dollars, and we're not maintained by anybody except our own goodwill.
Yeah, I think I was reading in your report where any outside funding is really minuscule.
Yeah, there's some small grants. There's a digital grant we received out of Lansing to help bring computer skills to their area, which is another area we'll talk about, just to help people learn the computer. A lot of folks don't have that.
Okay. We have to take a break. Back with more in just a couple of minutes after we take this commercial break. Again, we're talking this morning with Jim Borowski, who is the CEO of Goodwill of Northern Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. A couple of the other things you do now, we've been talking about the part people are most familiar with, but you've gotten involved in the computer reprocessing area, I guess we could call it.
Yeah.
Or recycling. Tell us about that.
Well, if you think of the whole overall Goodwill process, we are recyclers by nature. People bring us their things, their stuff, and we move them through. I'll give you an example. We think we moved about 8 million pounds away from landfills last year by taking them and repurposing them and people repurchasing and bringing them back again. Right. So about a year and a half ago, we purchased an interest in a company called CompreNew. They're out of Grand Rapids. They are the only certified Department of Environmental Quality recycler of electronics. Electronics have been a problem for a long time. Printer ink and things are very hazardous to the environment. People drop off, I don't know if you knew, but in a CRT there's over 7 pounds of lead, and if that gets into the water stream. So we partnered up through one of these conferences I was at, and so we are an owner and the single provider of electronics recycling. So there are two standards, an E2 and R2 standard that we follow. Those are federal standards for environmental quality, and we were given the blessing to operate CompuRenew up here. So while it fits well, we did 4 events last year, one at Northern here in Marquette at the city center, and one out in the Sioux.
Okay.
We collected about 400,000 pounds of electronics, from televisions to printers to vacuum cleaners to, I always laugh how these huge television sets from the bars that are still coming through, and we recycle those, and we have to maintain standards all the way downstream, and our vendors who dismantle it, some are in Wisconsin and some in Michigan, some in Ohio, have to maintain standards also.
Okay.
So in this spring, summer, we will be doing that directly through the stores, where you can bring in your televisions and CRTs and monitors and all that kind of.
And this is done not on a regular basis, but as kind of special events?
Well, the events are difficult because we're doing it in a parking lot with people moving heavy things. We're going to do it at the store in small quantities, so we'll be
Okay.
open for Marquette, we hope in May.
Okay.
And you can just drive up and we'll take it from you and then recycle it properly.
One thing I want to talk about before we run out of time is your industrial services division. You touched on it, but tell me more about that.
We look at it as, in the business terms of vertical integration, where we can take up small slots of business needs within a community, and I have kind of a triangle effect. You have the community needs, the business needs, and the person on top, and back to the job. So if we can get that person a job through our Goodwill Charter, we can expand in those businesses. So in Marinette, we run our industrial services, which is a small assembly. We cap for Caterpillar. We put a little plastic cap on a fitting, and it allows us to hire people with disabilities and people without disabilities. We did about 1.8 million pieces a month. When I got here, we're doing about 1.8 million a year.
Wow.
So that does generate sustainable business for us, and it's a repeatable job that people can do that have some physical and cognitive disabilities. And we're looking to do that everywhere. In Calumet, we are doing document destruction, and we're working in conjunction with Michigan Tech. So we take their papers and securely destroy, and again, another environmental process, and it creates a job because we get revenue through poundage. And to link all that together, we have trucks that move all this equipment around, and we can talk to vendors and haul them away. So environmentally friendly, plus the most important thing, jobs.
We're about out of time, and we've talked numbers, but these are really people, aren't they? That's the important thing.
Yeah, I'll give you some neat numbers. We have about over 210 full-time employees, about another 100 plus part-time, and people with disabilities last year that we either trained or employed were over 250 people.
Okay. We're out of time. Thanks for coming in,
thank
Jim.
you.
Appreciate it very much. I'll be back with some other thoughts for you in just a couple of minutes. Have you ever thought about the fact that just when you think you finally know it all, everything changes? Now, when I say know it all, I don't mean you believe you know everything, but you think you've learned all you're going to need to get by. Then something comes along and it all changes. It's especially true in business. You can have a very successful business and think you've got it all figured out, and then the world around you changes and you must get out of your comfort zone or get left behind in the dust. I've also decided you know you've been around for a long time when you've seen things come and go, trends in your lifetime. Last week we talked about the closing of the Shopko store in Marquette and the fact that it was a trendsetter. It revolutionized retail shopping in Marquette when it arrived here in 1969. It was hugely successful back then as people flocked to the store with a big selection of merchandise at low prices and in one big box store. It had a long run. Now its days are numbered. I watched it come and go. The malls are another example. They opened on the outskirts of many towns and brought a variety of merchants under one roof. Marquette had 2 bustling malls that became the centers of retail trade. Simply by their presence, they forced many downtown merchants to close or move their business under the mall roof. People would flock to the malls for shopping, to have lunch or coffee, and to visit with friends. Now malls are closing all over the country. In the television business, I was here to see the arrival of videotape, which helped to revolutionize our business. It allowed us to record pictures and sound together for instant playback. It got even better as they developed equipment that was smaller, lighter, and more portable for use by the news staff. They even developed VCRs for home use, so we could record our favorite TV shows or family videos. Now videotape is almost gone. We record digitally on hard drives and SD cards that have opened up a whole new world of recording possibilities. Let me give you one more example. You know, when I was a kid, my grandmother had an old-fashioned record player. You had to wind it up to make it play the old 78 RPM records. But I was around to see the arrival of the modern record player and the 45 and 33 RPM records. The difference in quality compared to the older player and records was like night and day. Like so many things, they lasted for a while, but were ultimately replaced by 8-track tapes, then cassette tapes, and the CD, the compact disc. Now they're pretty much all being replaced by the iPod or MP3 player. You buy the music on the internet and never purchase a record, a disc, or a tape. What it all comes down to is when we're young, we tend to think that every hot new idea will be around forever. If it's the in thing, it will never go away. But that's usually not the case. I hate to say it, but I've reached a point in my life when I get a little concerned when we start talking about artificial intelligence and self-driving cars, that one of these days I may show up here to find out I've been replaced by a robot, talking about the days when we used to have humans doing these jobs. I hope I'll be back in a minute. Well, that's our show for another week. Remember to keep UpperMichiganSource.com in mind as the place to get the latest news anytime. You can also see this show at that same address. Today's report will be available starting tomorrow afternoon. Most of our past episodes are available now. Remember, today is the first Sunday of spring. Get out there and enjoy it. Thanks to Jim Borowski for joining us today to tell us about the works of Goodwill in Upper Michigan. And thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you again next Sunday morning.